Welcome back, everybody, to another quarterly roundup video that I like to do. This is going to be a discussion with myself and my 5 closest friends talking about our favorite music from the past 3 months, the first quarter of 2023. We're going to be talking about our favorite ones, our most disappointing ones, and then those albums that surprised us. So I think we'll start with a quick introduction from each of you, and I'll start with the newest member of our panel this time, Mr. Matt O'Leary.
Thanks, everybody. Well, I'm glad to be here. Nice to meet you all. Is this officially the best of Prog? Is that what's our panel name? We need like
no. A proper branding. Yeah. Best of Prog, best of music in our minds. There's a couple albums on my list that are kind of like touching the genre, but not quite like an actual member of the genre. So yeah, it'll be
maybe like the lowercase p.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think one of mine's not even related to Prog. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
all right,
great.
Yeah.
That's
well,
great.
I have a YouTube channel called Matt O'Leary Music. It's new reviews, mainly focused on music discovery, indie, prog, alt prog kind of space. I think bands like the Deer Hunter, Rain Akindo, they're kind of my North Star, but it really runs the gamut. I used to be on YouTube like 5-6 years ago, did some videos with notes, lots of collabs. Back in that time, I think we did like a King Giz tier list.
We did.
Yes,
yeah, and they've put out like 12 albums since then.
You might need to revise it now.
right. They're just supplying new content at every month, it seems.
Every month. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and then I'm back and doing new music monthly episodes and hopefully more album ranking videos of kind of covering the prog canon and some of the classics. So that's the idea.
Amazing. Yeah, we're glad to have you on. Excited to hear some of your takes. Let's move over to Ian.
Oh, hello, it's me. I am representing the eastern side of the Atlantic Ocean today, as I always do. I run a little channel called Rhyme Signatures, which I've been doing now for about a year and 2 or 3 months, give or take. Again, like most people here, I like to talk about the new stuff that's coming out in the prog sphere, all the usual sort of things for our favorite sort of random 7/8 time signatures kind of thing, hence the name, Rhyme Signatures, time signatures. It's the whole big prog thing. I thought it was clever at the time. I'm sticking with it. I'm not going to change it, ever. But I do lean more, generally speaking, on the heavier side of the prog side of thing. Like I'm a lot more of a metal focused kind of guy than like a neo prog kind of guy, but I love it all, generally speaking. Like I will review the softer releases as just as much as the heavy releases, but I do have a focus on the more sort of edgy grr kind of stuff. So that tends to be my speciality. So if you like that kind of stuff, I've got you covered.
Amazing. Let's move over to Nathan.
All right, I'm Nathan. I have a channel that's called Nathan on Shuffle on YouTube, where I cover, like everyone else, all kinds of prog music. I do a weekly news show about the latest news in prog. I do lots of album reviews and do some videos with my wife where she's being introduced to progressive rock and doing some great reactions as a first-time listener. So it's a lot of fun content, both old and new prog. I probably lean more towards the more symphonic neo-prog style than the metal side, but I dabble slightly. I'm trying to get more into it, but yeah, that's what my channel's all about.
Yeah, amazing. Sounds great. Brent, we'll go over to you.
I'm Brent. I host the Similitude of Prog, and like everybody else, I try to do reviews and album rankings, etc. Finding the time sometimes is a little bit of a chore, but in the end, I enjoy each and every one of your channels immensely, and always keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And lastly, let's go to Travis, because we are doing the whole moving around. I'm going to skip over myself and go over to Travis.
Hi, Laosho here. I've been a writer for UltimateGuitar.com, doing album reviews in a variety of genres, from prog to metal to rock, even the occasional pop and hip hop review. And I've also been on YouTube focusing a little more on progressive rock, progressive metal. I think, like most of us here, I've lived my life for prog. So we, we're in good company.
That's great.
Exactly.
And we all know me. This is my channel, so hopefully you should know who I am. So
Never met
we're
this
gonna
guy.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. So we're going to get into our favorite records from the first quarter. So anything that was released between January to March. And because there's 6 of us, I've got a 6-sided die, the usual Monopoly dice. And I'm going to see who's going to talk about their favorite record first. And that looks like it's going to be Ian at number 5.
Singled out. Oh my god. Oh, pressure,
Yeah,
pressure.
first
pressure.
one up.
Okay.
What was your favorite
By the
release
way,
of this
Ian,
quarter?
Hello.
I just figured out the rhyme signatures thing
Hey.
2 days ago. I was like,
Boom.
rhyme.
Yes, close. Occasionally I'm intelligent, not often, but you know, where it counts, I've got it. Just about. Oh god. Okay, so yeah, this really was a very, very difficult choice because honestly, quarter 1 of 2023 has honestly been just stunning. It's been so just consistently good in places and honestly excellent in others. So I was saying just before we started recording on this call that I literally went back through I've had like 4 or 5 sort of potential choices for my top spot for this quarter. And it's still now, even like right now, as we are recording, I'm still thinking to myself, maybe I should choose that one instead of that one. But I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to stop fanning around. And I'm going to tell you now that my favorite record, first quarter of 2023, is the album Zon by The World Is Quiet Here. It is absolutely unbelievable. And I've just realized as well, much like last year with my top 15 records, there's a giant circle on the cover of the record, like everything else that I listened to last year. So apparently that seems to be my thing to get me interested in records. Have a big circle for your cover art, because apparently that just works for me. But yeah, it's so weird. It's just like, okay, and more again with the circles. But no, to be more real about this record, the reason why I really picked this one over the other sort of options in my list, which I will cover if we get to the sort of natural sticking point within this conversation, is just because this felt like it was the freshest, most original sort of take on the extreme prog metal sort of genre that I've listened to in quite some time. The nearest equivalent I can sort of ballpark this into is sort of like the Between the Buried and Me kind of thing. But this very much feels more like The Great Misdirect than something like The Silent Circus or something like that. It's got that sort of quirkiness, that sort of adventurous nature, this real sort of avant-garde sort of thing to it. Now, it is the sophomore record from the band. The original record came out, don't quote me on this, but 2018, 2019, something like that. And it's called Prologue, and it was really great proof of concept. It was a fantastic record, but it definitely felt like it was the band just getting started. And their vocalist at the time was what really drew me to the band, because he had this unreal range. It was just like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was like 17 vocalists in a trench coat, just vibing, just doing whatever he wants. And so I was really quite nervous with this record because they have actually replaced that vocalist. They've got a new one in. And I was just like, how on earth do you replace somebody like that? But the new chap who's come in is just even more insane. We go from like sounding like Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas to sounding like the Hound of Hell himself, just all within the space of about 3 seconds. And it's just like, I have no idea how this person can do these sort of noises and like not be 7 people at the same time. You know, it's just absolutely. It's like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the video game Killer 7. Like where you got this guy like 7 different personalities in his head and they all sort of manifest at different times. It feels very similar to sort of that thing. It's like this vocalist has got such an absurd range that you never know what's going to happen next. The first time I listened to this, I was just like blown away. I was just sat there thinking, what is going to happen next? And it just kept me guessing. And even when I knew what was coming, after like the 17th time I've listened to it, I was still finding new nuggets, new exciting pieces. And it is just such an adventurous, crazy, impossible to describe record that I would really recommend to anybody who's got any inclination towards metal at all.
Yeah, I had to be careful about this record because when I listened to it the first time, I wasn't expecting some of the vocals that came on.
I know, right?
I started laughing out loud because of how verbose it was and how bombastic it was. Like he's adding elements of like theater and opera to a lot of these vocals. And if you're not ready for it,
It just takes you
catches
by
you so off
surprise.
guard that
Yeah.
I started laughing out loud, and it wasn't until
I
like the
was-
third or yeah,
This sounds
yeah.
like something I desperately need to check out
Oh,
now.
Travis, you'll dig it. You'll dig it. It's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah,
It is such a crazy record.
After about the third or fourth listen of this record, I was like, okay, I can listen to it without giggling half the time because of how ridiculous some of this. It reminded me of like Slice the Cake and how
Yes.
extreme
Oh.
their vocals can be at times with how like
Definitely.
avant-garde and strange it is.
Yeah.
And it takes a couple of listens to really kind of swallow that jagged pill.
Yeah.
To get into it's like, okay, this is what they're going for.
I think
It's
the easiest way to prep yourself for it is imagine if Tom Hardy's Bane from The Dark Knight Rises decided to form a metal band, and at times he does sound like that, and it's really, really funny the first time you hear it. But when you get used to it, it is actually really, really cool though.
Yeah.
But I just had to choose this over my other options just because of how creative and how much it slammed me back in January.
Yeah. Oh boy, great pick. Absolutely great pick. Yeah, let's go to Nathan. Nathan, what was your favorite record of the first 3 months?
All right. So for me, maybe kind of an obvious choice. But for me, probably my favorite record of the first quarter is Haken's album Fauna, which I just really adore. I mean, Haken's one of my favorite bands. I just love their brand of quirky prog and metal. It's just a really great blend and really speaks to my symphonic prog background, but also introduces some cool newer elements and throws in some of that Dream Theater influence. But there's some like quirky Gentle Giant type stuff going on. I love the track Elephants Never Forget is one of my favorite tracks of the year. Just perfect Haken prog symphonic masterpiece. I really love that track, and they do a lot of cool creative things, and they sound very modern in times, and they just, I feel like I like where their evolution is going. I felt Virus and Vector were a little bit on the heavier, more gent side for me, and I feel like this balances that a little better with some of their more classic prog sounds. So I was really liking their new direction, and thought the album was just really solid. Just every track is interesting and unique in its own way. So that's the one I keep coming back to, at least.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I have another 2 weeks before it arrives in physical format for me. For some reason, the Postal Service likes to hold on to my records. So, but
They
yeah,
gotta
I've
give
been,
it a spin first, you know.
It's true. It's true, and I will allow that. Just a great record, start to finish. I forgot. I'm so sorry. I stepped over. Has anybody else heard Zon? The World is Quiet Here. I kind of went straight into.
Yeah.
Okay, so only Matt and I have heard it. Y'all should give it a spin. It's a good time. And I mean,
I think I only made it halfway through, but I need to go back.
It is a tough listen. It is really, really tough. It's not a straightforward record at all, but it is absolutely worth persevering with, because when it reveals its secrets to you, you know, it's just like,
Yes, yeah. I think I was primed for like the darkness to come upon me, and instead it was like.
Then you got Oogie Boogie Man just going
giggling. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
If I approach it with that in mind, it'll reveal itself.
It's a little easier to swallow. Yeah, what do we think about Haken's new album Fauna?
You vibe it. It's very good. I've got it over here somewhere.
I think I'll get to my thoughts on that one a little later, but yeah. It's,
Okay.
It sure is a Haken album.
Let's see those spicy takes.
It's one of the Haken albums of all time.
That's the downside of being a band that great, you know, is you just sort of live up to expectations by being absolutely stellar. And it's unfortunate.
I do like it a lot.
Another band in my sort of, you know, underdog wins mentality. If that was another band, I think I would have put them maybe as my favorite or even surprise pick on this list, but it's just like you almost forget about it because just Haken.
Yeah,
I do love it a great deal, but I absolutely loved it from start to finish. Like Nathan said, it's got some of my favorite songs of the year on it so far. Like Elephants Never Forget is amazing, but I am concerned going forwards that with the regularity of releases that we seem to be getting, like every 2-3 years, whatever, I am nervous that Haken might end up becoming the Dream Theater machine, you know, regularly releasing something too often often treading familiar territory each time, never being objectively bad per se, but never really forging out into the territory which really got them started in experimentation, where you look at the transition from Aquarius to Visions to the Mountain, that first initial 3 run, where every single time it felt like they were just one-upping themselves. It almost does feel a little bit like they've lulled into a comfort zone, a tiny bit, a little bit. And I'm just hoping that this doesn't become the case. I mean, maybe make it like 3-4 years before we see the next whatever record comes out from them. Allow themselves time to sort of ruminate on the ideas that they can do as a band, and hopefully stop that sort of rot from setting in, which really affected bands like Dream Theater.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, I will say that I enjoyed this one a lot more than Virus. I thought that this was a clear step up for them. And yeah, unfortunately there wasn't like that big like emotional powerhouse moment on this record, but the Sempterial Beings, the 4th track, is one that I still like. It might be one of my favorite tracks from the entire year so far. So yeah, I think this is also a really good gateway album for anybody that hasn't heard it, and then get your mind blown, because you don't have that big legacy behind them.
No, that's it.
I
That's
agree.
it. Yeah. Brent, what was your favorite record from the first 3 months?
I know Nathan and Mike here both know this album, and it's by a group called Great Wide Nothing.
Yes, I'm listening to it right now.
Yeah.
That was my number
Hymns
one.
for
Thank you
Hungry
for choosing it.
And I've known the head guy Daniel for quite a while now. He approached me to review their first album, and we've developed quite a friendship since then. I've interviewed him a few times and spent a lot of time online with him, and I actually would one day love to have him on the Prog stuff that we talk about, because I think he'd fit in so well. His knowledge is just off the charts. But that's my favorite of the year for sure. And I recommend you all at least check them out on their Bandcamp and just see what you'll think. I don't think you'd be disappointed. I think it's would fit in everybody's roundhouse. And
I have listened to it twice, yeah, and I definitely like what I've heard, but it's just the only reason why I've not listened to it more is just because there's been that bloody much coming out this year so far that I've needed to sort of divert my attention to. I'm just like, I want to love you more, but there's this which is pulling me away, so
and
it's on my list to revisit.
You guys do so much
with difficulty.
And this is like what Nathan said, our next Prog Roundtable. I think I want to go with that topic of how we review stuff, because you guys seem to listen to stuff in 3 days and you have a review up, and I'm still working on Haken. And I don't know why.
I secretly have a TARDIS that I'm just able to like sneak back to and then come back a moment afterwards. Yeah. I'm really the 15th Doctor. Don't tell anybody. If you guys haven't checked this one out, it's one of my favorite neo prog records of this year so far. The closing track, To Find the Light Part 2, it might be my favorite epic of the year. I feel like a lot of symphonic neo prog bands are floundering when it comes to longer stretches of music, like any track above like 18-minute marks. I just feel as though they are treading water. They're doing the track length just because they can, instead of like for an actual reason. And I feel like To Find the Light Part 2, it knows how to construct a proper long epic track, and it's one of the best ones I've heard since probably The Myth of the Monstrous. So I highly recommend it, and luckily I don't have to talk about that as my number one record. So.
You can choose something new.
Yeah, has anybody else heard Hymns for Hungry Spirits Volume 2?
Yeah, I've heard it. I really like it. I had it on my short list for like good surprises of the year. I didn't really know this band before this came out, and so this was a cool welcome surprise, a new band to explore that I've just been really liking their albums.
Volume 1 kicks major ass too.
Yeah. And that, I believe it starts off with To Find the Light Part 1, so the two are really like bookmarked with this. It's kind of like a double album in that sense.
Yes.
So Let's skip over me and let's go over to Travis. Travis, what was your favorite record of the first 3 months?
Oh God, there were so many great records that have come out this year so far. It's hard to really pick one. Um, I'm gonna go with a choice that actually isn't my first choice, but the new Periphery album, Periphery 5, Gent is Not a Genre. Um, I feel like Periphery, like especially the whole gent scene, is always kind of gets made fun of by people for whatever reason. You know, maybe it's the drop Z guitar tunings or whatever, and the chugs. But I feel like Periphery has kind of transcended a lot of what critics dislike about gent, and they're just a really good progressive metal band. And I mean, you can even see it in the title. Gent is not a genre. They're kind of poking fun at the whole thing themselves, and they definitely want to be seen as a legitimate progressive metal band. And I feel like with this album, they've really achieved that. Like they've really come up with something that just hits really hard the whole way through. I think the only disappointment I have with the record is like there's usually like one really good sort of feel good poppy single with a lot of clean melodic vocals, and there wasn't really a track like that on this
What,
record.
you didn't like Silhouette?
No, you know what? I actually like that track. But it's such a diversion from the rest of the record that like it doesn't feel like it's a very representative single.
No, can you
So
imagine if they put that as a lead single, everyone's just like, "What the hell are they going on?"
yeah,
And they're just
exactly.
like, "What?"
Periphery goes Coldplay.
Can you
Like-
imagine?
Atropos is probably more
Mhm.
that kind of vibe, but even that, like it's like 7.5 minutes long, and it has so many twists and turns. Yeah, I really like the new Periphery record.
Mhm.
It's gonna take some work for other bands to knock that off the top of my list so far. Although I'm gonna get to another album I think I might like just a little bit more
Ooh.
later, but
Okay. Yeah,
it's too soon to know.
yeah, I
I've got
was
a few
really
of those.
yeah, this was
I
on
think
one of
Ian
my
knows which one.
yeah, I was very surprised. This one is on my surprise list for sure. It kicked my ass. Wax Wings was probably one of my favorite tracks off of this one, but it's the last 3 tracks, the ones that go a little bit harder into the prog side, like Dracula Grass and Thanks Nobu. These two like stand out new favorites of mine from Periphery. Nothing has quite toppled Reptile from my favorite track from Periphery, but these guys are definitely huge contenders for favorite tracks of the year.
I have some slightly alternative takes, I suppose, on it. I did like the record a lot. I really did. Really enjoyed it when I reviewed it, and just like vibed it quite hard, especially things like Zagreus, like just bodies me every single time I hear it, and I just love the little sting of the from the video game Hades at the end of it, which just makes me laugh every time I hear it. But it just fits really well. But I will controversially say that the final 2 tracks were actually my least favorite on the record. I know.
That's
Differing
fine.
opinions.
That's what a lot of people say, and I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, it's just for me, I always like Periphery the most when they're short, sharp, and snappy around the sort of 6-minute mark, because I do tend to find that I get
Yeah.
I get a bit of exhaustion kicking in when they sort of go across. Like Reptile is a great track, I do love it, but I tend to have to listen to it in phases. Like I have to pause it occasionally, catch my breath, because I do tend to find that the whole gent movement. I know it's not a genre, blah blah blah, style of music, yada yada. But there is undeniably still that sort of mid 2010s sort of style of progressive metal. You know, the whole Tesseract, Periphery, all these sort of like drop tune 8-string chug guitar things. It's not a genre, but it's definitely a style, and the style was quite prevalent. But I always tend to find that the shorter songs hold my attention a lot better than the longer songs, because I find it a rather hourly exhausting experience when it starts going over a certain amount of time and it's just a bit too intense. I mean, I can happily levy the same criticism at Meshuggah. I love Meshuggah, but
Yeah, that's fair.
there we go. There's your 8 strings right there. But as much as I love Meshuggah, as much as I love Periphery at times, as much as I love Tesseract at times, it's the shorter tracks which really do it for me. And I did like Gent Is Not a Genre. It's still a fun record that I do revisit from time to time, but it's not one that I really sit through from start to finish. I pick out the bits that I like the most, but the bits that I like the most, I absolutely love.
Yeah, that's fair. Has anybody else heard the new record from Periphery? I always call it Gent Is Not a Genre. I think
They
they
missed a trick.
they missed a good joke, as I know
They
they
didn't
love to
go
do.
with my suggestion for a title, Periphery 5. This is actually Periphery 7.
Yeah.
It's their seventh album.
It is.
It is, yep.
Nice. What is the? I'm going to ask you to explain a joke here, which is just like, killing it. But what is the joke? I'm like, okay,
Oh.
yeah, they're just poking fun at their own like gentiness. But
Yeah.
I'm hearing this like style of music versus a genre thing, and it's like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah, there's criticism among the critics and reviewers and just the music industry of like, is gent an actual genre of music or is it a style? And because gent is generally very like heavy, intense, it's like, well, we can poke fun at ourselves and it's not really a genre, it's more of a style. And so they
Does
kind
a
of
genre have more of like a heritage? Or like
yeah,
opinion?
that's actually a really
That-
good discussion. And on my podcast, The Metalhead, we're going to actually dive a little bit into that of like, is gent a genre and where does a genre start and when does a style start? Because
I mean, I'd just call it a subgenre.
Subgenre.
Like
Yeah.
the same way like technical death metal is distinct from metalcore.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
yeah, it's a shorthand, like, and I think this is what genre is supposed to be. It's a shorthand for identification. It's like, this is the style of music in a very quick sentence, so that when I say gent, you know what I'm talking about.
You got an idea of what's coming.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about Tesseract or Periphery and not Kill Switch Engage or
exactly.
Park.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's I always love those kinds of conversations of like, should we even have genres or should we just have styles that people play with? So
yeah, I haven't listened to it yet. I think with them in the past, I really love Tesseract, and I love the ambience and the space leading up to the gentiness, kind of the contrast there, and some where it just feels like sensory overload, and I'm like doing math and gymnastics.
It's pretty much the same with myself, to be honest.
Yeah, as much my thing, but
yeah,
give it a shot.
I need like a piece of paper and a pen sometimes just to write down like, where am I in the song? What's going on? I'm kind of lost in the
metal.
weeds.
Bring your abacus.
That's right.
They don't call it math rock for nothing, kids.
Oh boy. Matt, what was your favorite record of the first 3 months?
Well, I've just been waiting to say, Nathan, I feel so seen right now, because it was like, no one is going to know this album, and then you just have it right next to your head. And it's Nickel Creek with Celebrants. It's about as far away from, I guess, capital P Prog as it gets, because this is a band rooted in bluegrass.
Ooh,
So that's where they come
nice.
from. In the 90s, they were like 3 child prodigies, a brother and sister, and then Chris Thiele, who's more well known now, very virtuosic, coming up in that time in the 90s, just blowing people away at the age of 11. But this album is a second comeback album, so they've gone these long periods, I think it's like 9 or 10 years without albums. They put out 3 in the early 2000s and then another one in 2014, which was a lot poppier and just kind of a crowd pleaser, especially for the sort of rigid genre boundaries that is bluegrass. Your bluegrass is a style and folk music that generally celebrates staying in the boundaries and doing what's traditional. It's like down home. We love what we love, instead of reaching out like Prog. But this album is like completely different, and just, I think I could have put it in the surprise vein, but my wife, it's a big part of her childhood is this band, and this music is like always on in their home and music like it. So I've known about them, and when they put out the single Strangers, I was like, that is it. You've struck it. I finally love this style of music. Just the adventurousness, the rhythmic displacement in songs. There's a lot of really musically progressive elements, playing with modulation. Like if you just listen to the first track, there's like no way you can keep up with what key it is. But there's still an element of what's at their heart and roots there at the core of it. But just incredibly sprawling. I think it's an hour-long record, and it really just goes all over the place. You have really soft, folky numbers, and then really intense, kind of linear structured songs where it's not like there's a lot of repetition. You get kind of more of like a B, C, D, E kind of song. Yeah, I still kind of collecting my thoughts on it because it just came out, I think, 2 weeks ago. But I've just been blown away at the ambition of the whole thing. I think, like I said, it's really going against what I think the core fan base wants more of. And so for that, I applaud them. And if you're not, if I say bluegrass and you just run away instantly, I totally understand that. There's not really that at the core of the sound. It's more of like a indie folk thing. You'll hear a lot of like the 2008, 2009, when that was really popular, that sort of sound in there, but it's really, like I said, just musically sprawling, and there's so much going on that I'm still putting the puzzle together.
Amazing. Yeah, that's the first one that I haven't heard out of the group.
Same.
So yeah, and I love bluegrass, so I'm excited to kind of sink my teeth into this.
I've got some folksy stuff coming up later in the show.
Yeah. Does I guess Nathan, you've obviously heard it. Has anybody else heard it?
Nope.
I want to now, though. After Matt's talked about it, I really want to hear it.
I like the idea of modulation, so I'm tempted.
I've already added it to my list to listen to whilst I'm making dinner later.
Same. So Nathan, what did you think about this album?
Yeah, I really love this album as well. I'm a big Chris Thile fan. I really love his work, especially with the Punch Brothers. I think are really incredible. I really like the bluegrass style, and he does it in a very interesting and unique way that feels a little bit more progressive than some of your standard bluegrass stuff. And I really love their vocal blend, their harmonies, their instrumentation. I just think they're really incredible. And this album in particular is really unique and special. I think they're doing some creative things that really set it apart from their past works also. So really good.
Amazing. Yeah.
So cool, Nathan. And I'm like, I was just totally taken aback by it that you had that.
Cool. I love when that happens. Cool. So this leaves me, which so luckily one of the 5 albums have been removed, but unfortunately the other 4 still remain. So I'm gonna have to do a panic order on my favorite from the first 3 months, and I think I'm gonna have to go with Retro by Kite Parade. This is a harder to find album because they haven't put it on streaming, so yeah. It's so good. So Kite Parade is a newer symphonic retro prog. This is their sophomore album, and it is just so good. I've had it now for a week, and every time I listen to it, it just makes me very excited. For a genre of progressive rock that I feel has gone a little stale and a little treading water, this is one of the few albums outside of the Hymns for Hungry Spirits, and I'm like, okay, we've got some rejuvenization here. We've got some good feels on it. The final track of Merry Go Round is my favorite track of the year so far.
So good.
It's just, I don't know, it gives me the good warms. It's almost 15 minutes. It's a prog modern masterpiece. I can't wait to talk about it in full on a review coming up. But yeah, this one blew me away. So that one's my favorite of the first couple of months.
Yeah,
You're
I love it.
intriguing me enough to want to go and actually buy it, because
Mhm.
obviously, like you say, it's not on any streaming at the moment. I've just been having a quick search,
Sadly,
like, where is it? Where
yeah.
is it? I can't
Luckily,
find it.
the band reached out and was just like, "Hey, here you go." And I'm like, "Excellent, thank you," because I missed the first one because I'm cheap and I don't have a lot of money. So-
Have others bought the CD? Is that how you
Oh,
get-
I should buy. I need to
I
break down
have.
and buy the CD.
Yeah, I got it. It's really amazing. This one was fighting with my favorite spot. It might surpass over more time, but it's more recent. So, but I love it to death. I think it's amazing. I wish it was out on streaming also, so I could like point people to like go listen to it
Mhm.
here, or on Bandcamp or anything. But
Mm.
yeah, it's one of my favorite releases. I'm gonna have a review of it this week, and I'm really excited
Amazing.
to put it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely gone on my radar then. But I mean, just from the description
Yeah.
you guys are giving it, it sounds like definitely sounds like my kind of jam. But
Yeah.
hopefully they at least release a single or something like that I can just click on and be like, oh, this is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, they might
Um,
have some like YouTube clips or something
Probably,
from the
yeah.
album. I
Oh,
think.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
I should look into that
Um,
later on tonight.
Yeah. So really quickly, a couple sentences for the other. I'm going to limit it to two, kind of like runner-ups before we get into surprises and the worst albums. So really quickly, the two that I wanted to put at number one. The first one was the new Neo Obliviscary's Exul was so good. Loved it. And the other one is a math rock post rock of Hybris, the one above. Which I could not stop listening to. I have a review coming out this next week, and yeah, that upon review of that, it was my favorite record. And it just so freaking good. It's again taking a genre of music that I felt was a little stagnated and rejuvenized it to the next level. So yeah, if you want that
Really?
like mid 2000s explosions in the sky feel,
Okay.
you're gonna love this. So
Yeah, a little heavier,
yeah,
not
yeah.
quite as sparse as some post rock. And
Yeah, but still has that same kind of space and that same kind of vibe
That's crazy.
that I loved about it.
I
So
was very close to picking the Neo Obliviscaris as my top spot. I'm not gonna lie, it was so close.
It's true.
Literally the only reason I chose The World Is Quiet Here over Neo Obliviscaris is because Neo was literally more of what I come to expect from them, whereas World Is Quiet Here was so different. But just freaking Exul is so incredible. It's everything I wanted from the band after the long absence that we've had from it. It just kicks my ass every time I listen to it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Mhm. Yeah, I almost wish more bands would do that. Take maybe a year or two longer with the band, with their album to really flesh it out, rather than giving us a new album every other year.
Definitely.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any kind of like runner-ups that they were pained that they couldn't talk about?
Riverside's new album.
Yeah,
I wanted to say
Identity
that
one.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was a great kind of new release, and I missed them because they came to Toronto the day after I saw the Muse concert, and unfortunately, because I was still regaining my energy after getting COVID, I couldn't do both, and it was a standing only show.
Oh,
I'm like, I'm going to be laying on the floor in the back,
yeah.
so I unfortunately missed the show.
How proud
Yeah,
would that be?
great album.
Is one record I do want to highlight, and I couldn't, in good conscience, give like it the number one spot because it has literally been out since Friday. And it's not Crownlands before everybody gets ahead of themselves, although that is incredible. And we all need to talk about Crownlands later at some point, at least anyway, because it's just unreal.
We will.
No.
We will.
Oh, good. No, the record that came out on Friday, which really it had such an absolute ass kick on me, and I want to gush about it. I've got a script ready for it to go, so I'm probably going to be recording that tomorrow. It is a UK band called Sermon, and it is their sophomore record called Of Golden Verse. Oh my god! Take Leprous, take Ghost, take Opeth and Tool, mash them together, and what do you get?
Soen?
Yeah, and so on as well. Okay, right. Literally, right. The vocalist reminds me of. Let's take Jonas Rankse, guy from Soen, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and Einar Solberg. Mash the best parts of all three of their voices together, and that's what you have. Couple that with some of the most engaging atmospherics, unbelievable drumming, great keyboard atmospherics, and some of the best riffs I've heard all year, and it is stunning. I have listened to it Bearing in mind, I've also been away on Friday and I've been out with friends over the weekend. I've still managed to find time to listen to this record 8 times over the weekend.
Wow.
Because I've made the time, because it won't leave me alone. It's
Right.
so good. It is so good. And because I can't
Okay.
talk about it in the next quarter, I wanted to slot it in there as it's just incredible.
Amazing.
Such a good record. I'm so hyped to do the review for it, and I can't wait for people to hear it because it's just
I'm
unbelievable.
going to check that one out. I hadn't heard that one before.
So good.
Yeah.
Anybody else before we move on to our yeah, Nathan.
Yeah, I have two more obscure picks that I wanted to make sure I mentioned briefly. One is called Deposed King is the band, One Man's Grief. I thought that was really fantastic. Kind of almost electronic in section, ambient. There's like a Lunatic Soul kind of vibe, but also some Steven Wilson kind of vibe as well. Just really cool, kind of laid back prog stuff that I really liked. And then also Single Celled Organism, the album Event Horizon, which is more like Pink Floyd type sound with maybe a bit of like that Steven Wilson style vibe, or some of that classic prog mixed with some more modern sounds. That one also kind of like the Kite Parade is hard to find on streaming and stuff, but I think it is on Bandcamp somewhere to check out. So those were two I thought were really excellent.
Everyone did the like Jimmy Kimmel, or sorry, Fallon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. What was the title of the album from Single Cell Organism?
Event Horizon.
Event Horizon. I'm writing all these down, which is like, this is a completely selfish thing. This is why I'm doing it, is to see what I missed.
I get
so
this
I can
as
go
well.
through it.
I totally get that from these as well. I love it.
Amazing. Cool. Let's go in reverse.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt, did you have one?
I do want to mention Zop's Dominion, although I feel like somebody's
good
gonna
too.
say it's their surprise.
I'm gonna put that down. Yep.
I will leave it open to.
I was gonna
Amazing
say,
record.
that actually leads us into our well, let's save the most surprising and let's go into the ones that were most disappointing.
Okay.
And let's go in reverse order. Let's start with Matt. What was the most disappointing release from the first 3 months?
This one was really tough because I think all of the like legacy acts and just bands that I was psyched about in the first 3 months came through with something at least passable. I think I was bopping around Catatonia as a possibility. I thought theirs was a little sterile.
Agreed.
But I ended up going with one a little more obscure, a band called Dutch Uncles. UK band. It's more in the vein of like XTC, kind of prog pop style. And this new album just didn't do anything for me, but this is more of a roundabout recommendation for their last album, which is amazing. I think it's called Big Balloon. Very quirky, very poppy, indie sort of prog pop. That's the best way I can say it. If you like XTC, if you like arty sort of prog, yeah, that's a great album. But the new one was definitely a disappointment. I just haven't really caught on to anything from it yet. So yeah, I'm not sure if anyone knows that band or not, but
it's a new one for me.
I might have to look into that album that you recommended though, because if that certainly comes with a seal of approval, then I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah, I have that on my albums to check out. Big Balloon from Dutch Uncle. I
love the name as well.
Yeah, I know.
It sounds quirky,
Travis, what was? Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Well, we already actually talked about it, and I agreed with all the reasons for why it's maybe my disappointment of the year, and well, for this quarter anyway. And you can really tell that you're having a really good quarter for releases when an album that's sort of actually a step above their previous record is my most disappointing release of the quarter. Obviously, I'm talking about Haken's Fauna. I wouldn't even really say I'm disappointed in it so much as I've come to terms with the fact that the band is never going to release Affinity again, The days when they were innovating and when they were really putting out releases that were, mind-bogglingly great. And now, yeah, it was like Ian was saying, like they're kind of settling into a groove now, and it's not that the release is bad. It's just okay. This is okay. This is fine.
It's not exciting you.
It didn't make my yeah, it didn't make me tingle.
What I will say as a lukewarm defense is, like, when I first heard it, I was definitely disappointed. The first 2 or 3 spins, I'm like, what are they doing? Nothing's really holding on. I'm not feeling like that big emotional connection that I have with all their other albums. But I think more so than any other album they put on, this was the one that has grown the most for me. Like, the more I listen to it, the more I enjoy it, the more I get out of it. And it took a full month and a half for me to really get into this album. And that's part of the reason why I love this album a lot more. Because that's what I want Prog to do. I want Prog to disappoint me on the first 2 or 3 listens, but then grow to appreciate in the months and years that come.
Mm-hmm.
The best releases always seem to be the ones that you like hated at first listen and then grew on you because like you had to work for that.
I mean, case in point, Colors by Between the Buried and Me, I thought it was garbage when I first heard it, but now it's literally my favorite record of all time. So
Tales of
Talk about your
Topographic
glow
Ocean
up.
from Yes, I despised when it first came out, but now it's like top 5 albums of all time for me.
Duran Gray's Ouroboros was that for me.
Oh, that's such a good record.
That's a good like topic of conversation. Those albums that we hated when they first came out and then grew to love and appreciate later on.
Saint Anger will not be making that list.
but I will say Lulu has actually aged quite well. In the gulf of when it first came out to where it is now, I actually really enjoy Lulu.
Okay,
I might have to give it another chance then, because I just like I'm just there for the memes when it comes to Lulu. You know,
I have the table.
Yes.
Oh man. Boy.
It's funny that you mention Affinity, because it's like the retro progression. If you're able to incorporate some retro sound, like the 80s sort of whatever's going on that record that makes it so amazing, and juxtapose it with something different and of a different time completely, that makes it progressive, even though you're going back. And I wonder if, like, with the 2 heavier metal records, if it would be that way if it was like 20 years from now, where you're reaching back to this very common, very heavy prog metal sound. But I love Affinity too. Yeah.
Again, that's one that hasn't quite aged, but that's fine. Let's go over to Brent. What was an album that disappointed you this time around?
The Architect.
Oh,
I kind of agree, you know?
This album was gonna be the next great thing. I tried not to compare it to Contact of Sound, but I found it really repetitive. It's all over the bloody place. I found it a hard listen, and the concept has been done so many times before and better. But having said all that, it is still a fun album and one I still would recommend you listen to. I just was very disappointed in thinking it was going to be something a lot more better.
Yeah, I have my review for that record queued up on my YouTube page. I just haven't had the energy to post yet, because it didn't do anything for me outside of like maybe 2 or 3 tracks. And like, I loved Sound of Contact, which was kind of like their other band that was kind of and with Simon Collins being the son of Phil Collins, you would think there would be like a lot more, and there is quite a bit of like symphonic drumming styles on it, but there wasn't anything to really like dig my teeth into. And it was, I hate to use the term, but it was
on it.
In
the last half, he's got a couple songs where he sings, and then the best track to me on that album is the title track.
Yeah,
the rest is all kind of just.
And it was just kind of I hate to use the term, but it was very much like a nothing burger for me.
I absolutely loved it. I just
good.
thought it would, like as a complete flip opposite. I love that record. E-Molecule just absolutely did it for me in every way. I just love the sound. I love the energy. I love the vibe of the record. Everything about it just ticks so many buttons for me. It was in the sort of upper echelons. I think I've got it about like number 6 out of my top 10 of the year at the moment. I think I'd have to recheck that, but like, this is what's great about music and what's great about these discussions is that we can look at these records and we can have completely different opinions about them. But I 100% understand where you're coming from, because like, if I was to look at E-Molecule and compare it to Sound of Contact, yes, I would absolutely say it's a disappointing record, because it's not the same. It's so different. And I do prefer the sound that Simon Collins was doing with Sound of Contact. I think that was a better fit for him. But after the first couple of listens, I sort of disassociated Sound of Contact from it and said, you know what, this isn't that. This is E-Molecule. This is something different. This is a entirely different project. Be like, I don't know, comparing, what do you call it? The Future Bites to Deadwing. Ultimately, it's the same artist, but you can't compare apples to oranges.
No.
Yeah, true.
Still, and I tried to hold that in mind when reviewing it and listening to it. It's got nothing to do with that.
No, absolutely, yeah. But no, I absolutely, yeah, that's definitely a good take. I think that I can totally understand the reasons why you'd be disappointed with it.
Absolutely. Anybody else hear E-Molecules, The Architect?
Yeah, I was considering it also for disappointment. I mean, I gave a pretty positive, good review of it, but when I first heard it, it was a little hard to get into for me, especially like you guys were talking about, liking Sound of Contact and kind of expecting more of that sound. And it's just such a long, dense record that's kind of hard to get into, in my opinion. But over repeated listens, I was starting to get into it more and ended up really liking it in the end. So that was my experience with it.
Oh, great.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an album to check out for sure. It left me a little cold. That's all.
Yeah.
Nathan, what was an album that you found a little disappointing?
All right, this is always the hardest part of the show. I feel like no matter what I say, people aren't gonna like it. But
Haken.
Yeah, Haken's my favorite and most disappointing.
It can be both.
It's possible with Haken.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with me is when I fall in love with a band or artist, I just like pretty much like everything they come out with. It's hard to disappoint me when I'm really that much of a fan. So that's why the new Haken I immediately loved it, because I just love Haken and everything they do. I was going to mention maybe Rick Wakeman's solo album, A Gallery of the Imagination.
That was mine.
Because I really liked what he did on, I think his last one was The Red Planet, which was really, really cool and really interesting. And this one didn't really strike me. It was just pleasant, but not anything really to write home about. It just wasn't really anything very exciting to me. So that was probably my biggest disappointment.
That's
a
shame. I've not listened to it, but
yeah, I'm in the same boat, especially with like The Red Planet being one of my favorite records from 2020. And he continued on with the what was it, the British rock ensemble or the English rock ensemble? Like this was kind of like the sophomore record of this iteration of what he was doing. And I always feel with Rick Wakeman, it's quantity above quality. He'll just throw things on the wall and see what sticks. And so every once in a while, you'll get a masterpiece. You just have to wade through 10 other albums in order to get there.
The Buckethead syndrome.
It is the Buckethead syndrome, yeah.
Next time you guys are on Discogs, look his discography up. You'll be floored.
It's huge.
Just never ends.
He's got like 80 albums, and those are just studio albums, not to mention all the different concerts he's done.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, he legit has a full concert dedicated to his dog. It's amazing.
That is incredibly based. I love that.
Yeah,
what a champion.
It's ridiculous.
It's in the territory where it's like he's just recording everything.
Yeah.
Just practice.
Yeah, he wakes up in the morning, he's got his morning coffee, just tinkles a couple of notes. Oh, there we go. That's a new single right there.
Yeah. We got a new album. Let's go. Let's print that money.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, it was a little bit. Well, I'm glad, Nathan, you said that so I can cross that one off my list. I don't have to.
I was wondering about that one because I hadn't heard any buzz. I was like, Rick Wakeman, come on.
I didn't even realize he had a new one out. That's like how much has passed me by. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, it's fine, but yeah, stick to The Red Planet. The Red Planet is so good.
Yeah, that is a great record.
Yeah.
I'd only heard about new Rick Wakeman through notes, so I read your tweets sometimes, you know.
Only sometimes. That's the best way to
Sometimes.
consume my tweets, is just very like every once in a while. Oh boy. Ian, what was a record from you that you didn't enjoy from the first 3 months?
I was sort of like flip-flopping between two, and they've got one thing in common, is that both of their band names start with the same letter, the letter K. So, pop quiz, hot shots, is it going to be Catatonia with Skyvoid of Stars? Or is it going to be Camelot with The Awakening? Plot twist, it's Camelot!
Yes.
Hey!
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Camelot, yes.
Okay.
Camelot's The Awakening was, for me, again, it's fine, but that's all it is.
That almost made my disappointment too.
Yeah. I was considering doing a proper full review of this, but then I just couldn't be I literally couldn't be asked wasting the time and effort doing a full. So I just did a quick short one of it. But one thing which I got to thinking about during the thought process of like thinking about this record was the Karavik era versus the Khan era. So again with the K's, God, they're just addicted to it, aren't they? Roy Khan, Camelot, Karavik, K's everywhere. Like I was just thinking to myself, like Tommy Karavik is a better fit for Seventh Wonder than he will ever be for Camelot, and Roy Khan will always and forever, Roy Khan will always and forever be the voice of Camelot to me. And I'm sat here thinking, if you want a Tommy Karavik-led project, just listen to Seventh Wonder. It's so much better than what he's doing with Camelot at the moment. And I am not afraid to just say that and leave it out there, because I find that Karavik Camelot is just, it's there. It exists. It's fine. But it just doesn't have that bite, that punch, that passion. Listen to the likes of the Black Halo. Listen to the likes of Ghost Opera. That is good Camelot. That is awesome. That knows what it's doing. And it's more than just this
Poetry for the poisoned.
Yeah. It is just, I find that the Karavik era Camelot is just the most boring, tedious, predictable power metal that they've done in decades. And it's so it's vanilla. It's vanilla ice cream. It's buttered toast. It's fine. It's there and you can enjoy it in small doses. But if you want something exciting, engaging, just altogether more intriguing with Karavik, just screw everything else. Go listen to The Great Escape by Seventh Wonder and thank me later, because that is a killer record which will blow your mind wide open with one of the best prog epics ever written on it. And just listen to that instead, because it's just better.
Yeah. My girlfriend is a massive like power metal, symphonic metal fan, loves Camelot. We've seen Camelot live a few times. And, you know, the first time we saw Camelot, all of them with Tommy Karavik, by the way. The first time we saw them, it was like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. And then, like, the second time we saw them, it's like they're playing the exact same set list as last time. Either that or, like, the songs sound exactly the same. And then, like, the next time after that, we're just like, wow, we never want to see Camelot live again.
It is such a shame to me, because I do love the Roy Khan era so much. Like that era of the band is still some of my favorite metal music out there. The Black Halo is such a masterpiece of music. It's so good. And I think that's honestly why I found The Awakening so disappointing, is because it was just such a, I mean, I don't even know what I expected at this point, because it isn't exactly the first record, Garvik. You know, we're 4 or 5 into this era.
What pisses me off so much about like Karavik era Camelot, Karavik is such a damn good singer.
He's incredible. He's
so
one of the best
good
vocalists out there, but he's wasted on this music.
And what did Camelot do? They're like, can you make yourself sound more like Roy Khan?
Yeah, I remember the first Karavik era one. It's like he was doing a bad impersonation of Roy Khan. It's like, stop that.
So is he not doing like the boy band-esque?
Oh, he's doing. Yeah, he's back up to his usual shtick on the new records. He's basically dropped any pretense of trying to sound anything like Roy Khan. He's doing his own thing again, which, as far as I'm concerned, he just doesn't do very well with his music, and he works better in the proggy side of things with Seventh Wonder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. One of my very good friends of mine who loves Camelot, one of her favorite bands, considers this era the zombie era, where they're barely alive, they're still moving, but there's no soul left in it. And as much as I liked some of the modern ones, like Haven was okay. It's a pale shadow from
The
the
last
era
one
of
was all right. I mean,
and the last one was, and even this one is listenable, but yeah, it's a pale shadow from, you know, the Black Halo, Epica, Poison, and Ghost Opera. It's just, it's just another album.
Yeah, it exists. It's fine.
It exists.
You know,
one of the Camelot albums of all time.
it absolutely
it's definitely
is.
one of the. Has anybody else heard the new Camelot album?
Sounds like I need to go back though.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting when I was first really getting into progressive metal. After I had like devoured all of Dream Theater's music, Camelot and Symphony X were the two next bands from them. So I got the Divine Wings of Tragedy and the Black Halo on the same day.
Nice.
And then my life changed forever. Those are two just fantastic power metal from the you know, mid to
Divine
late
Wings,
90s.
man.
It's
Divine
so
Wings
good.
of Tragedy is just unbelievable.
Just so good.
Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been debating about my least exciting one. Luckily, Nathan, you took one off of my list, so I didn't have to talk about that one. But I think the one that that was my least favorite one with a lot of anticipation for me was the new Lazuli album, their 11th album of Ons. Lazuli was an album that each album they had put out got better. And that was really saying something because it's a French progressive rock band. You know, they're from France. And yeah, the last handful of them, each one got, like I said, better and better and better, to the point where the one that came out in 2020, Le Fantastique Envol de Diderbaume, was one of my favorite records of that year. Saison 8 from 2018 was so good. So like each album just kept getting better and better. But this one, they changed out their lead guitarist. And I think it kind of suffered because, again, kind of like what we were discussing with Camelot, they're trying to do what the last guy did, but he doesn't quite have that same verbose style. Like he does a really good atmospheric guitar style, but we don't have that same kind of sweeping guitar led tracks that we had from before. And also this album starts off with one of the best tracks that they've written in quite some time. It has like this really powerful Radiohead from like the Bends or OK Computer kind of styles of it. And then after that, it just kind of peters out and then doesn't know what to do. And it's like almost an hour long. And I just kept feeling myself getting bored from it. So in terms of like my expectations and what we actually got, I think that was the biggest gulf of it. Even with Rick Wakeman's, like the gulf wasn't as big because I know he puts out like an album every other month. So I understand I could be disappointed. With Lazuli, with the momentum of 4 amazing albums up to this point, this was the first misstep. And so that was why it's probably the most disappointing one for me.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that one. I loved the previous record, like you say, it was so unbelievably good. But Ons is just, it's fine. I mean, there's good tracks on there. You've got like Qui d'autre que l'autre, or Parlons du temps, or Les pleurs sous la pluie, stuff like that. You know, they're good records, they're good songs. You know, but they're just there's a lack of consistency. It just feels like it's there, it starts, it ends, and considering what the band put out before this, like you say, should have been a lot more sort of up there on the radar. Like I literally have listened to this about 4 or 5 times, and I just can't bring myself to even say anything about it because I just don't really have anything to say. It's like we've said, like one of them are Camelot albums of all time. This is one of the Lazuli albums of all time.
Yeah,
there's no spark, there's no creativity or fierceness. There's no, I don't know. It feels unbold, unadventurous, and just uninteresting, really.
Ian,
Also,
did you go to Canadian public school as well?
I was going to say, your French is better than any of our
Yeah, listen to
Canadian
this
French.
European guy here.
Je parle français assez bon parce que j'habite en Belgique pour 5 ans.
Ah, c'est bon.
Ouais, I lived in Belgium for 5 years when I was a kid, so my French is c'est assez bon, c'est pas mal.
Yeah, my French is un peu, so just enough to get me through the 4 or 5 years I had to take it in public school.
Je ne pas parle français.
No speaky Frenchy.
J'ai envie Roboboot.
Ah oui, oui. Le pamplemousse, c'est bon.
Ah, c'est oui, Jacques Cousteau. Yeah,
Ah oui,
that's
oui, oui.
that's my extent of my French.
The
So, yeah.
extent of my French would probably get me blocked on YouTube. So,
Oh boy.
at least in Quebec, anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Great. Does anybody have any other disappointments that we want to get into before we dive into those albums that surprised us?
It's been true, of
Unless
course,
we're
to be too
allowed
disappointed.
to like talk about singles.
Let's save the singles because
Yeah.
I think they will come up when the
But I'm
hopefully full
already
albums.
sensing this. I'm already sensing this is going to be my disappointment for next.
You couldn't possibly be
quarter.
talking about PG, could you?
Yeah, you better
No,
not.
I don't know, babe. Because I've liked the singles so far.
no, the Big M.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
We'll leave that
Napster
as
and
a
all
tease.
that, you know. Napster
Yeah.
and all that jazz. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave that as a big tease for our next
That's a
quarterly
tease.
roundup. So let's move into surprising, and let's roll my dice again to see who's going to start this one off. That's a 6. That's over to Matt. What was
Critical hit.
Yeah, let's just keep that order going. Matt, what was your most surprising album of this past little bit?
So my surprise is from the past month. Really just out of nowhere, but that's how most music finds are nowadays, as you scour the the deep web and the band camps.
Mhm.
And it's a band called Dispirited Spirits, and the album's called The Red Shift Blues. This is young, very young, like a 19-year-old leads the band, Portuguese band, and it's kind of impossible to explain. It's like everything, but a strong sort of post-hardcore, emo, pop sort of sound there, but like alternative rock, art rock, indie rock, jazz rock, post rock, all that's wrapped up in it. There's a bit of Mars Volta, kind of early Deer Hunter, like Act One kind of stuff. There's even like I mentioned, like emos, bands like American Football or something. That guitar tone is in there as well. It's kind of an intergalactic themed album, so you even have this like space rock element there. And it's everything but the kitchen sink. And I think for a young band to do that it just shows their ambition at such a young age. And even though not every moment hits for me, I think there's enough in there that does, where it's just like pure bliss, that I think this is going to lead to, it's the seeds of like an absolutely great future album. So there's a lot in it that feels like a little melodramatic, especially vocally, but he's 19. So I'm like, okay, I get it. But there's also just some real peaks and builds throughout these long songs, great composition to be able to work dynamically through these long pieces. There's a song called Methanol Fire, which is probably the proggiest. Starts with this very like atonal sort of noodling thing. But then you get like these really catchy kind of post-hardcore tinged choruses in there as well. So yeah, just a really cool band. Discovered them in the last couple weeks, and yeah, I'm just loving that one.
Amazing.
Definitely. That sounds just my kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Has anybody else heard Dispirited Spirits?
Oh no, I have heard this song. No, I have heard this record. No, gee, I just literally looked at it. I recognize the album art. A friend of mine from Finland.
Does it have a
recommended I
circle on
listen
the
to it.
cover?
It's got a circle
No,
on it.
It's got a circle on it.
Yeah, that's all it needs.
Oh, that's
a
funny.
friend of mine from Finland recommended that I check this one out because he's very much into like the indie rock side of things, but recommended that they obviously know I'm a big prog head. And they said, absolutely listen to this, you'll love it. And I remember giving it a couple of listens a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh my God, this is really, really good. But I didn't twig the name to the album art, and I just checked it out. I was like, oh no, I have listened to this. I do know this band. It is really, really good. No, 100% agree with Matt on this. And this is an absolutely cracking record. It's really good. I think everybody here would enjoy it.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Got really excited there. And I was like, oh no.
I've got homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get like these moments where the song starts with like a jazz trio sort of sound. And then what they get to, you just never imagine that it would transition from that to like, this kind of like Cityscape, like that song from the Deer Hunter. There are those kind of sounds on there. The production could definitely use a boost, but this has got to be a small budget type of thing, and just all the passion and energy is there in its seed form, and I think they could do something pretty special in the next few years.
Amazing. I'm definitely checking that one out. Cool. Let's go to Travis.
All right. I think the record that surprised me the most this year so far, it's a very new record, just came out on Friday, and that would be Fearless by Crownlands. That might be the one record that might just have overtaken Periphery for the first quarter of, like, I like it more than Periphery, but because it's so new and I haven't given it as many full attention listens as Periphery so far, we'll wait and see. But what surprised me about the record is just how diverse it is. Because, I mean, before this, I'd heard the singles and I'd heard a couple of songs from the band before, and I'd kind of passed them off as being like Canada's version of Greta Van Fleet, like, oh boy, another Led Zeppelin ripoff band. And but then, Context Fearless Part 1, of course, was just like this epic track. So I didn't know what to expect going into Fearless. And pretty much like right from that first 18-minute epic straight through to the end of the record, I'm just sitting here blown away by the wide variety of things I'm hearing. Like, there's tracks like, yeah, there are definitely those Greta Van Fleet, Led Zeppelin ripoff moments here and there, but and of course they're aping Rush to its logical conclusion. But then you still get moments where there's like you can almost hear a bit of like 80s hair metal. Then there's like an acoustic guitar instrumental piece. Just a really good variety of songs. Like, this feels like something that's going to make some waves in the prog scene moving forward. And I'm really excited for this band now. Like, I might have to go back and re-listen to some of their older stuff again, just to sort of like get out of that headspace of Greta Van Fleet style ripoffs.
Yeah, it's funny.
Boomer fetishism.
It's funny because I was introduced to these guys early this year with a buddy of mine who was like, you have to listen to these guys. And as a little bit of context, like, I love Greta Van Fleet, and I don't understand why they were getting the hate that they've been getting, where it's like, they're just a Led Zeppelin clone band. How could anybody like it? I'm like, yeah, but they're still making good music. So even if they're a clone band, why the hate if they're making good music? And when I listened to Fearless, I was like, oh, now I see it. Okay, now I get it. Now I understand why people don't like it, right? Because I'm sitting here, and because Rush is one of my favorite bands of all time, I'm like, it's just more Rush, and I've already heard all this, and I don't know if it does anything for me. Like, all the pieces are there, but again, it's like if Rush had an album between Signals and Hemisphere, it's like this would be that album.
That's what I've been saying about it, is like, if I fell into a coma in 1979 and I woke up today and you gave me this record and told me this is the follow-up to Hemispheres, I wouldn't doubt you. Like, but it's what Rush would have sounded like if they didn't release Permanent Waves and just like kept going with the Hemispheres style.
Sorry, Permanent Waves. Signals is the one that they released after. My mistake. But yeah, I was just I like the music, but this is the first time where I'm like, guys, do your own thing. Don't we already have Rush?
But that's just
Uh,
it. Like on the rest of the record, they do.
Yeah,
That's what
I'm with
surprised
Travis
me.
on this one. I
yeah.
absolutely adore this record. I am obsessed with it right now. I cannot stop listening to it. It is everything I currently want in music. If this had come out maybe a week or so ago, this would be my top pick for
Same.
the year, and possibly it's going to be riding my top 3 of the year by year end because it is absolutely astonishingly brilliant. Just that run of that acoustic guitar track Penny. Oh my god,
Yeah.
unbelievable. The
Okay.
guitar work on that is just astonishing. And Citadel is basically one of the best Led Zeppelin closer songs I've ever heard in my life. It is so good. The singer just sounds like a cross between Geddy Lee and Robert Plant, like the best parts of both of their voices. Just
I could
mashed
actually hear
together.
like shades of Marillion
Yeah,
in Citadel, like
yeah, it's such a great
similar
closing track.
piano
So good.
chords to Neverland.
Yeah.
I
And
was
the
going to
chorus of
ask, 'cause
Dreamer of the Dawn. Oh,
you said that it was like late 70s Rush. So I try to, that seems different to me than Led Zeppelin. So it must be
it's a bit
some
of both.
blend.
It's kind of like a fusion of the two. It's weird. Like there are, especially on the big epic at the start, it's definitely got sort of like 2112 vibes going on with it, with some of the melodies and the sort of the sort of guitar riffs and stings on it. Definitely, that is 100% Rush, like 100%. The more you get into the record, the more you feel like the other sort of classic rock 70s thing. Again, definitely Led Zeppelin vibes throughout the entire thing. But I do think that the more you get into this record, the more you realize that, well, yes, they are wearing their influences on their sleeve. They aren't using it as a crutch, but more to enhance what they are capable of as themselves, which is something I felt with Parius last year with the Signal Heard Throughout Space. Whilst they definitely had their influences and they definitely relied on them, I think by the time the record came to a conclusion, I was so satisfied with the overall melange, the overall feel and vibe that I got from the record, in spite of the clear, heavy influence that they had, that I felt that it really stood on its own merits in a fantastic way. And I really get that from Fearless. It is hands down my absolute obsession right now. And I'm so glad Travis mentioned it because I could talk about something else now.
Yeah, and I've already said my piece. Has anybody else heard the Crown Land's new album?
Yeah, I listened to it. I really like it too. I'm not as bothered by the like heavy influence and stuff like that either. But because I like Greta Van Fleet also, I think they do a great job in what they're doing. So maybe
That
I'm just
singer is
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
off the charts.
crazy.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I've only listened through like once or twice, so I still forming my full thoughts on it, but I'll definitely keep listening and do a review at some point in the future.
I listened to it last night, and after your glowing recommendation, Ian, and I really like it. And I'll be listening to it much more.
Ian listened to it 8 times in the course of you listening.
I've actually it's about 4 times already.
Must be longer over there.
I spend a lot of time waking up in the morning with my headphones in, or falling asleep at night with my headphones in, and I actually am on my 4th listen of the entire thing, and it's like an hour long. So, no lifing this, baby. Let's go.
That's all good.
I've got nothing better to do. It's fun.
Oh boy. Brent, what was an album that surprised you?
Cake and Fauna.
Okay, yeah.
I really enjoyed Vector and Virus quite a bit, and I'm afraid that this new album was going to kind of continue in that vein. I'm glad it didn't, because like Ian, they're getting to that point where they're just going to be happy with what they're doing, not going to challenge themselves, yada, yada, yada. So that's been a big concern of mine, and this is the most hardest Haken album that has ever taken for me to get into. I'm still not into it 100%. That's why there's no review for it yet. But that's always a good thing in my experience. It always means you're earning its respect. And like somebody commented earlier, that usually means it's going to be definitely a favor or one that's very high in the catalog.
But it wasn't what you were expecting as far as
No,
their
not at
direction.
all that. Completely different. I thought it was going to be more of the genty Vector and Virus, but
yeah, much like yourself, Brent, I'm glad that they've moved away from that and back towards more the sort of classic sort of prog metal sounds. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
No,
me
this is
too.
a sign of good things to come. So with the new keyboard, well, I say new, the old new keyboardist
Old new
back in the
dude,
fold. You know, I do miss Diego though. My God, I love him.
What
He's so
does
lovely.
anybody know the reason he was booted, or was there some bad blood, or
No, I think he just he wanted to go in a different direction. He I can only speculate after that. I think
Yeah.
there was creative differences.
The
I think
classic.
yeah, and so I
Yeah.
think he wanted to concentrate more on his own music. If I had to speculate, I think he found that they were playing too much of the similar stuff and he wanted to experiment a little bit more. And
Yeah.
that's kind of,
Well,
you know,
I hope
it-
that's the case, because I
Yeah.
think they're seem to be very easygoing guys.
Mm.
yeah, I
Every
don't
time
think
I've
there
seen
was
them
any
live, they've
like,
just been so lovely.
No.
yeah, and there's definitely no bad blood for sure. It's just, yeah, didn't quite, he wanted to do his own thing. Great. As much as I would love to talk about Haken some more, I think we have talked about that album quite a bit. So
Yeah.
Nathan, what was your surprising album?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've been trying to get more into like the heavier progressive metal stuff, because I know this panel, like there's lots of you that lean that way and have been hyping up a lot of those heavier records. And so I've given some time and attention to some albums that usually wouldn't be my lane, like Periphery's album, Agenda's Not Genre, which I thought was pretty cool. The Enslaved record, Heimdall, I thought was pretty cool. And I think it's Hypnos, Sheol, I thought was
Yes.
also really good.
Ah,
So those were some that surprised me in that heavier genre with some of those aggressive vocals, but I thought was more palatable. But one that I want to mention also that's progressive metal, it's not on that side, it's not as aggressive, it's more in the progressive side that I like more so, is Ice Age and their album Waves of Loss and Power, which I thought was really excellent. It's been a long hiatus. They did a couple albums like in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I thought they came back with a really incredible album that to me feels like almost this blend of like a Dream Theater and Styx. The vocalist sounds a lot like Styx, and it has this really cool, expressive, almost theatrical vocal at points. It can lean a little almost cheesy in times, but I think it's actually really fun, cool music. The track River Flow, the second track, was one of my favorites. It's almost like Spock's Beard to me. It's like very much in that symphonic prog vein, but with a little bit of that Dream Theater feel. And so they just really were right in my lane of what I like for that progressive rock, progressive metal side. And I thought it was really an impressive record.
I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to
I've
check
given
this
this
one
a
out.
couple of
haven't
I've given it a
listened to
couple of
this
spins. It is really, really good. It's very, very solid. Like
Nice.
it hasn't quite stuck with me 100% yet, but what I have listened to, I have really, really enjoyed. It's just a really good bacon sandwich, you know. It is solid, it's dependable, you know what sort of stuff's going to come from it, and you
Yeah.
really enjoy it, and it's just, it's good.
That's
Are
Yeah,
you
it
saying
looks-
like just bacon?
We'll tell you what, we'll get English on this. We'll add a bit of HP sauce to it as well, which
Okay.
I'm probably the only person who's actually consumed this stuff, but you know,
Oh,
trust
I
me when
have.
Nope.
Hey, good.
Us Canadians, you
A
know.
person of culture at last. Thank you.
gotta have my House of Parliament sauce.
Ours
Oh,
of Parliament
definitely.
sauce.
It's not a bacon sandwich without it. I'm sorry. I don't make the rules
Yeah.
here. I just follow them.
What's interesting is it ends with parts 4 and 5 of this track that seems to be spanning their album since 1999,
Yeah.
which
They
is
have a lot of
really
these
interesting.
continuing tracks that like harken back to their older albums. It's
That
really
is
interesting.
cool.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
I'm definitely checking that one out.
Yeah.
Into
it's
album
cool.
continuity is like one of my favorite things ever. It's why I love Deer Hunter so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ian, I think you're the one rounding this off outside of myself. What was a surprising album from you?
Bonjour again, it's me. Right, my surprising album came from, well, one of my regular haunts on the internet. Quick shout out to angrymetalguy.com. Love those guys. Love their website. I basically read everything that they put up, and I saw a random record that got put up there, which didn't look very metal at all. Turns out it wasn't. It was something that was sent to their promo bin by complete accident because it was labeled as gothic folk. It's not gothic folk, plot twist. It is a fabulous little indie band from the UK, a little indie folk band called the Vagaband, like the Vagabond or like Vagaband sort of thing. And it is their latest record called Beautiful World. And honestly, I've never heard of this band before, but when AMG gives out a 4 out of 4 or 4.5 out of 5, I pay attention, you know. So they gave this record a 4 out of 5, and I was like, okay. So a really angry heavy metal blog's giving a really nice indie folk rock record a 4 out of 5. I like indie folk. Let's check it out. What I was not expecting was to be assaulted by some of the finest, most beautiful indie folk music I've ever heard. It is stunning. It's like the best parts of Steel Eye Span mixed with Fleetwood Mac. You mix those two together, and what you get coming out of this is Beautiful World. It is ridiculously good. The both male and female vocals are incredible. Stevie Nicks lives again. Well, she's not dead, but you know. Stevie Nicks is on loan for this record, effectively. You know, I hope I haven't jinxed that and we wake up tomorrow morning to find Stevie Nicks dead, because that would make me very upset, because then I would consider myself sort of dark prophet, and I don't want to have that sort of ability.
Right.
But no, it is such an incredible record. It's so, I mean, yeah, it stays within the lines of what you can expect from an indie folk record. There's nothing surprising here. You know, it's not going to suddenly sort of like make you think, oh my God, they've reinvented the wheel. But what they have done is taken the existing wheel and almost perfected it. It is such a strong, incredibly beautiful record. It holds nothing is held back. It does not pull its punches. And you've got this, there is some creativity within it, though. You've got these sort of spoken kind of Celtic poetry sections in some, like the which one is it? The Peddler's Way, the sort of a cappella track, and then you've got the Unquiet Grave towards the end of it, which really brings in this more darker sort of almost suppose songs for the graveyard kind of thing. You know, you're sitting around a campfire telling ghost stories vibe to it. But then you've got the title track. Oh my God, the title track. It's special. It's really, really special. It really just sort of made me feel like I was in a place of just extraordinary comfort and extraordinary joy. And it really has moved me more than any other record I've heard this year so far, and I cannot recommend enough that you give it a spin. It's really sweet. I basically posted about the band to my Facebook, and they reached out to me and they said, hey, thank you so much for the review. And the frontman basically sent me all of their discography in the post, and I was like, oh my God, my first promo material. It was a very special moment for me. Very special moment for me. But I hands down love it. And I've been listening to their discography now as well through the CDs that they sent me. And these guys have got it. They have got it. It is such a good record. They are such a good band. And I really think more people need to listen to them because they're just wonderful.
Amazing. I'll have to check it out for sure. Has anybody else heard about whenever I hear it, I always think it's Vagaband. That big we like to party band?
The Venga Bus.
Boys.
The Venga Boys. That's what I always, when you first said it, I'm like, the Venga Bus? I didn't know
the Venga Boys
back.
go, yeah, they go indie folk for some reason. I was like, okay. Vagaband.
Yes, the Vega Band. Okay. Has anybody else heard it? Because I'm definitely going to be checking this out. I've got like 12 albums now I'm going to be checking out. So,
but I too do love Angry Metal Guy.
Oh, they're great. I love them.
Great.
Shout out to those guys. They're wonderful.
Oh boy. So unfortunately I had two surprising records and nobody has mentioned either of them. So I'm going to quickly break my own rules and use both of them. The first one, I'm going to talk really quickly of Baby Metal's new record. The other one, I think it's their most consistent and solid record they have ever put out. All their other albums have like one or two tracks that I love, and the rest is just kind of like, okay, it's fine, but nothing really to write home about. The other one, from start to finish, is a solid metal album.
Yeah.
If you like kind of the Japanese idol pop mixed in with your metal music, if you like something a little bit different, like I said, probably their most consistent album.
I unironically love the other one. It's so much fun.
It's so much fun. It's a fun record, is what I could say. But the one that I want to talk a little bit more about is the new record from Zop, their Dominion album. In terms of like what I expected and what I got. Kind of like was the reverse for Alms from Lazuli, where I like their first album, the debut album that came out in 2020. It was fine. I really liked what they were doing, but Dominion surpassed everything. They weren't necessarily relying on, like Andy Tillison or some of the other folks that were kind of helping them off. It's like, okay, your training wheels are gone. Let's go. And they flew.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andy Tillison and a few other musicians like helped promote and played. I think Jonas Ringgold as well played on that first record of theirs. Just to kind of help them develop and get into the new prog scene. And this one they were like, okay, let's go our own way. And I friggin' loved it. I don't know what happened with Travis there. He went intergalactic for a second.
Having a moment. That's
Yeah,
a Daft Punk video.
Jeez.
Oh boy.
I switched to a different window on my laptop, and I guess Zoom just decided it wanted to freeze.
It was a trip.
Don't do that.
Windows 95 or
Oh boy. But yeah, Dominion by Zop, forerunner of one of my favorite records of the year. Loved what they were doing. It surpassed every expectation that I had from it. Yeah, it was a great time. So that gets 2 thumbs up for me for that one.
You're not a Canterbury person in general, right?
Yeah, it's one of those genres that it's not because I don't like it. It's just I don't get exposed to it a lot. So I don't have that knowledge base. Like I have one Caravan record. I have a lot of Andy Tillison's records, but that's kind of the extent of my Canterbury scene. So
Pretty much the same, to be honest. Like
I need to get
fine.
into it because everything that I've heard, I've really enjoyed and loved. I just
Dominion is
hadn't had it.
just stunning, though. I think it's currently set at number 4 in my list. I think something like that. It's high up there because it is so good. It is just love every single second of that record.
Yeah. Perfect. Bringing this to a quick close because I know we're running a bit later. Let's talk about those albums coming up in the next quarter, those ones that we're excited for. And I think we'll just leave it at excited. And maybe we'll do one album with like a quick tease. We won't go quite in depth because we haven't quite heard it yet. Just those albums that we're excited for. And I'm going to roll the dice to see who's going to talk about it first. That's going to be Brent. Starting off with you, what album are you looking forward to in the next 3 months?
Mystery has a brand new album coming out this year,
I didn't know that.
which I'm really looking forward to. It's been a long time, 4 years, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah, sounds about right.
There's a single that was released a few months ago. Check it out; it's really good.
Love
this group
Mystery.
called Archivist.
Yeah.
I've been
Oh, they have
listening
new
to
one
their
coming out.
single, The Pale Moon. Oh, what a song! I'm looking forward to that and the new Yes album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard the new single, but from what I hear, it's either good or bad, depending on who you ask.
It's good.
But I've heard mainly good things.
I prefer it to the last album, and
Yeah.
I wasn't a hater of the last album, so there you go.
All right, yeah.
Is Archivist the newest? Is it K-Scope or
Inside Out.
Inside Out?
And they're Norwegian, I think.
Archivist.
Cool. Yeah, I've been meaning to check that out. Hear Opeth and these things thrown around.
Ooh,
Very
okay.
much.
But I've
That's
been
it.
convinced by Notes' no singles rule.
Yeah.
this year,
Sorry,
so-
buds. Yeah. Yeah, let's go clockwise. So Travis, what's one that you're excited for?
Well, I already teased this, and it's pretty much the only album coming up in the next quarter that I know is coming out. And excited might not be the right word, but I'm anticipating it. That's the new Metallica record, 72
Yeah.
Seasons.
That big M.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the singles have left me a little wanting, but I'm willing to give it a shot when you hear the songs in the context of the whole album. I think what's happening is it's just another case of a band settling into a groove. And these guys have been around for so long now, and they've weathered so many changes in the metal scene that now it's just kind of like, I get that they're playing for themselves now, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when that album comes out. But I found the singles just sounded really empty, repetitive. And my biggest problem with the band in recent days is Kirk Hammett's guitar playing. You know, the last album was so bad with the solos, and like I don't brag about my guitar playing that much, but I actually could have done a better job with the solos on that record myself. I'd be willing to share the receipts to prove that. So
I am
you
looking forward to
guaranteed-
it.
Yeah.
I want to hear too, but you're guaranteed it'll sell $1 million.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it'll-
absolutely.
it'll-
albums and
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah,
go to
but
number one on
what's-
the charts,
yeah.
and
yeah, and I don't think it's wrong that you want to write and play what you want. I mean, that's the way I would be looking at it.
Yeah.
At this point in my career, I'm going to write for me.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're all getting up there in age now. I don't think anybody's expecting another Master of Puppets or
No.
Definitely
know,
not Lightning
or
or Justice
Lulu.
or anything. As long as it's better. I think anticipating is definitely the word I would use for 72 seasons. Like, I mean, Hardwired was a decent record. I kind of liked it. And Death Magnetic was decent, just ruined by its productions, like so many parts of Metallica's life. Just look at Justice for All, for crying out loud. Jason Newsted, Justice for Jason Newsted. That's what they should have called that damn record.
Hey, did you see Ultimate Guitar's April Fool's joke? Listen here, the isolated bass track from one.
It's just silence.
It's just 7 minutes of silence.
Oh, that's great.
That was great.
Oh boy, that's pretty good. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, Matt, what's an album you're looking forward to?
Well, speaking of April Fools, what is up with the selling England by the pound?
I don't know if
Orchestral
that's true or
record.
not. I was going to ask people about that, but I am excited about what Tony Banks reportedly is doing with it. It's not a Roger Waters thing with Dark Side of the Moon.
Good.
Has
Matt, would you like to
anybody heard when
share
that's
the
coming
news for
out?
anybody that
Sure.
doesn't know?
Oh, so Tony Banks, right, is re-recording Selling England by the Pound as a mainly instrumental orchestral piece.
Orchestral.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which somehow
Kinda
just
cool.
strikes me so much differently than the Roger Waters thing.
Just a little bit.
Even though it's like, yeah, I mean,
Roger
classic.
Waters in his old man yells at cloud phase.
Yeah.
Something about Dark Side is just untouchable. Like,
Yeah,
please.
just leave it alone. Good grief.
Yeah. But anyway,
anyone
records
actually-
I'm looking forward to, if we want to keep on that train. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Did anyone actually hear like the clip from that Dark Side of the Moon
Not yet.
re-recording?
Go
There
check
was a
out
clip
Comfortably
shared
Numb.
of one
Really?
of the songs, and it's terrible.
Oh no.
And nothing of
I
value was
don't
lost.
want to find it.
Do it. Do it.
It's like opening up the Ark of the Covenant, right?
His face is like, ah!
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. With the Tony Banks thing, there were too many details in there where it just didn't seem like.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
didn't
know.
seem like it was a
Like-
joke. It seems
Yeah.
like it's legit. It's just
I'm
poor
hanging on
timing.
to it. They're gonna
Yeah.
roast us in the comments on that one because it's probably.
Oh boy.
So I'm looking forward to the new Lemon Twigs album. I
Mhm.
take any opportunity I can get to talk about them. They're a duo, brother, very young, like 23, 24, but they're like very McCartney, Lennon sort of flow on the albums. You get sort of this more brash style with one of the brothers, and then like a super just hyper melodic McCartney sort of thing with the other brother. And that's Everything Harmony. It's their fourth album. But pretty much all their albums have been 9s or 10s for me. They're just one of my favorites going at the moment. And it's just like short songs, straight to the point. Melody leads the way. So great band there. And then I would say Sparks has a new album came up, which is cool. Rufus Wainwright.
Ooh.
Another one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Talking about Ben Folds earlier. He's kind of in that sort of vein. Very operatic, like classically trained voice.
Yeah. Loved his work
like
with Carly Rae last year. Just 10 out of 10.
Yeah, he's great. So that's in June. Otherwise, it's, I don't know, I'm like waiting in eager anticipation for new announcements. Especially on the like rock and metal, like prog and metal side. So do tell.
Let's see what we've got. Ian, can you give us some other?
I can give you a prog album to look forward to. Right, The Ocean have got their new record coming out. Holocene. I
can't wait.
Cannot recommend The Ocean enough. They are an astonishingly good band. Only real miss was with Heliocentric, which was whatever. But let's see if I can get the pronunciations right. Phanerozoic 1 Paleozoic and Phanerozoic 2 Mesozoic and Cenozoic were
10 out of 10.
Oh my god.
So
what a
good.
double punch. Unbelievably brilliant. And Pelagial before that, literally one of the best albums ever made. Don't fight me on this. You will lose. I am obsessed with that record. It is unbelievably perfect and I love it. And then you got Precambrian as well, which is again one of the greatest records ever made. And now they're coming out with Holocene later on in the year, in the next quarter, and I could not be more hyped for it. Especially considering it looks like they're going a more sort of experimental, kind of almost electronica vibe with it, which is really interesting. But I will follow this band till the ends of the earth. Like, they could release literally the lead singer farting into a microphone for 3 hours and I'd still probably listen to it because I'm that hyped for this band. They are so good, and I cannot wait for this. Other than that, obviously, the new Jethro Tull could be kind of interesting. Rock flute, that could be kind of okay. Yeah. I didn't like the Zealot Gene at all. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was, but
fine.
I like the single that they released from Rock Flute, so I've got more hopes for this one. Obviously, Metallica, still kind of looking forward to that. The Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bielski Orchestra, whatever it is, I'm looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun. Oh god, there's one more. Oh, Einar Solberg's solo record as well. That's hopefully coming out this coming quarter as well. And I'm just hoping that he just lets loose and does as many RRRs as we can handle, which is quite a lot. Knowing Einar, there's going to be quite a lot of those. At the end of June, there's the Ingenious Devices from Big Big Train coming out. That's kind of hype. I'm pretty excited towards that. In terms of like less proggy kind of things, The National have got a new record out pretty soon as well, so that should be really, really fun as well. The first 2 pages of Frankenstein. Love The National. Always a great band to listen to. But yeah, there is a decent amount. There's not quite as much coming out the next quarter as there has been this quarter, because frankly, March had enough for like an entire year's worth of content. It was ridiculous. March was amazing. But yeah, there is a decent amount of really good stuff coming out. April's going to be interesting because obviously Metallica's coming out, which is just, I mean, that's going to be what it is, you know. It's going to be very intriguing to see what happens with Metallica. But in some ways, I'm hoping for a slightly slower quarter so I can actually look at getting some of the classic reviews I've been wanting to do for like absolutely forever. I got my copy of Spanish Train and Other Stories sat on the shelf, looking at me judgmentally, telling me, why have you not talked about me yet? Christopher is going to come and kill me in my sleep for not doing it, because that is literally one of the greatest records I've heard.
We're seeing him in 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I'm super stoked to belt my heart out with Borderlines, because that's my favorite song from him. And I pray that he'll play the Crusades, but I have a feeling he probably won't.
No, probably not. But yeah, I'm genuinely, as much as there is a good few things coming out, I am hoping for slightly quieter quarters, just so I can actually, do other things in my life other than reviewing music. Because I'm literally probably going to be writing some stuff for the Crown Lands record tonight as well. So I've got a week off work. I'm going to be spending a lot of time just catching up on music and just doing a lot of writing, because I like to do. Yeah, that's me for the next quarter.
Cool. Nathan, which ones are you looking forward to?
All right. Hard to go last when a lot of it's taken, but there's a couple that I'm interested in. The keyboardist of Wobbler is coming out with a solo album.
Oh, yes.
Lars Frederick Froistley, I think is.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited
Mhm.
about that one. It sounds they released a single just barely, and it sounds really amazing. Just cool vintage, prog sound. I love Wobbler, one of my favorites. So that's a big one. Excited about Supersonic Revolutions, the Arjen Lucassen
Oh
project.
yeah,
It's like
I forgot about that one.
classic, like
Mhm.
glam metal stuff. That Golden Age of Music is what that's called. Squid is a band that's coming out with the
Yeah.
album O Monolith, like one of those bands like Black Midi, Black Country New Road, like
Mhm.
the post-punk proggy scene. I believe Pendragon is going to come out with an EP, North Star, coming out
Ooh.
in May. So those are a couple that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that all sounds
Forgot
great.
about the Eye and You Look at Someone. I'm actually pretty looking for. I haven't listened to any of the singles, but I'm pretty hyped for that because I love him. He's so lovely.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that one is like Aryan doesn't seem to be like the upfront factor of that. Like he's just the bass player on that record. So that's gonna be interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I'm
And
looking
Timo
forward.
Summers on guitar, like, oh, that guy can shred.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, the going last, you guys have talked about pretty much all the ones that I'm super excited for. I keep forgetting I was going to say Big Big Train, but that's in the next quarter because that's in July rather than
Oh, is
June.
it? Oh, I thought it was June.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's I had to double check because at first I'm like,
Ah.
oh yeah, Big Big Train, but no, that's the next one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all those. The two big ones that haven't been said yet, Twerp, spelled TWRP, is a Canadian kind of instrumental disco pop,
Ooh,
but very complex. Like if anybody knows Ninja Sex Party, they play as their backup band whenever they play
Oh,
live.
that's cool.
But the bass work on these guys, they just last Friday or this past Friday released their first single for this new EP that's going to be like a space rock opera, called Have You Heard, is my favorite track of this year. And I know I've said that maybe 2 or 3 times already, but
This time I mean it.
this time I really mean it. Every year I put together a best tracks from that year, and this is the first one to make it into that mix. So I'm really excited for that one. But the one that I'm probably most excited for in terms of a full length album is the new Swans record, The Beggar. If anybody knows Swans, they've reinvented themselves to be this very avant-garde noise rock band. That every album from them I really, really love. It's extremely experimental, very like sometimes people are wondering if it's actually music or if the guy is just screaming and yelling over top of like a syncopated like random beat trap that's going down. But yeah, their past 4 albums from them have been consistently good, starting with The Seer, and yeah, it's just I'm really excited for the new Swans record. So
I have no doubt in my mind I will listen to it and once again try and get into Swans and once again fail miserably to get into Swans. But I'll give it another go, damn it, because I keep convincing myself one day I'll get it.
That Swans is the only band that my fiance refuses to listen to. She's like, I will listen to everything else that you play, but that one time you made me listen to Be Kind, I'm never listening to anything you play from them again. And I'm like, okay, that's
saying something because you got a lot of stream stuff.
Oh yeah,
I
have
tried so hard to get into Swans. Like I want to like Swans. I really, really do, but I just don't get it. And it upsets me that I don't get it because I want to.
When it's too extreme for Ian, you know it's good.
Yeah. I mean, I got the crazy taste, and let me tell you that. Right
Oh
now.
boy, it's a lot. So I'm really excited for that one. So yeah, let's bring this to a close. My clock is saying we're almost at the 2-hour mark. Yeah, a lengthier one, but we've got some good discussions. I've got a massive list of albums now to check out, and I hope you guys do too. Let's go once more roundtable. Who you are, where people can find you, and we'll close this off. Let's start with Matt again.
YouTube, Matt O'Leary Music.
Easy, quick and easy. Love it.
I'm there.
Ian, let's see if you can follow that up.
Oh, YouTube, Rhyme Signatures. You'll never find me on the other parts, though. You'll never find me. Ha ha ha. I'm like a mysterious ninja. You can find me on YouTube, and if you do really want to find me on the other socials, you'll find me if you desperately want to. Otherwise, happy hunting.
There you go. Nathan, where can people find you?
Yeah, YouTube, Nathan on Shuffle. Also, Twitter, Instagram, also same name, Nathan on Shuffle.
Amazing. Brent, where can people find you?
Everything is Similitude of Prog, and that's about it. And I can't wait to go listen to Revolver, thanks to Nathan. It's just sitting in your background there.
Right.
Oh boy. Travis, where can people find you?
Well, you can check me out on OnlyFans. No.
Yeah,
I'm
link
on
down below.
Link down below. YouTube, Lausch's Reviews and Vlogs, also just under my name, Travis Lausch. I try to put out content, but I'm not very regular at it, so.
You working on any music?
Oh yeah. There's going to be a couple of songs that I'm doing with a friend of mine soon, so yeah, a couple of covers, and I'd like to get back into doing some original music again. It's been a while.
Nice.
And that would be under Borealia on Bandcamp, Spotify, YouTube.
Amazing. Yeah. I know we'll all be looking forward to that when it comes out. And you can find me right here. So yeah, thank you all, panelists, for coming on, chatting about music. Thank you all for sticking around and watching this. We'll be back at the next quarter, talking about some more new albums to check out. So until then, myself and all of our lovely panelists, we're out.
Good night, everybody.